Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a nice, bright Tuesday morning.
That's right. It is a Tuesday morning with a whole lot of buzz. It's been quite an interesting weekend and start to the week, and we know there's a lot for people to digest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what are your reflections on the weekend activities, the convention, the court case yesterday?
I think I'm still like taking it all in, to be honest with you. Some of it, some expected, some surprising, I think. But for the most part, I mean, I was like really, between yesterday and Sunday, I was, really closely following everything and also following what people have been saying on like social media and stuff as well, which has also been really interesting to watch. People's reactions.
Yeah.
I don't know, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly we've been following the lead up to the convention and all the drama there, and then the actual convention on Sunday. Yesterday in court, we finally saw we had to stick a pin there. All right, we're going to check in on our weather. We have Michelle Smith on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today, Michelle?
Hi, I'm good, and you?
Not too bad. It's been lovely days here in the city. Sunny and windy and comfortable. Tell me it continues.
Yes.
Good.
Except for maybe the comfortable part, right?
All right, tell me how it's going to get uncomfortable then.
All right, we expect mainly fair and mostly dry conditions to prevail over the area, along with warmer temperatures. And that is because we have a fresh east to southeasterly airflow prevailing over the country.
Okay, so that shift in winds is going to bring warmer temperatures?
Sorry?
The shift in the winds is going to bring warmer temperatures?
Yes, right. Yes, we expect with the southeasterly airflow, we should be having warmer temperatures today and for the next couple of days, actually.
All right, but it is going to be a bit gusty. Is it safe for people to head out to sea?
Yes, at the moment, yes. We don't have any warnings or caution up at the moment. We expect sea conditions to be choppy to moderate at most. Possibly tonight, though, when these should kick up even more, and then a caution will likely go into effect.
All right. And let's talk about the high temperatures then. How warm will it be?
All right. If you're along the coast, you can expect about 86 Fahrenheit. As we move inland, about 90 Fahrenheit. And up in the hills, about 82 Fahrenheit.
And for tonight?
Tonight, temperatures will be a bit warm. We can expect about 80 Fahrenheit along the coast, 72 Fahrenheit inland, and 68 Fahrenheit up in the hills.
Okay. And the extended forecast, what's that looking like?
All right. The extended forecast is pretty much similar to what we expect today, and that is for fair, windy, and mostly dry. And I must add warm temperatures, right? So we expect temperatures to become increasingly warm between Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay. All right. It seems that you are emphasizing that because we have some hot days ahead.
Yes. Yes. I would like to emphasize that. Yes.
All right. Well, we will take note of it, and we appreciate the heads up. Thank you so much for that update.
You're welcome.
You have a great day.
You too, thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, well.
I know. There's a bit of deflation there.
Yeah, well, I know, but I mean, I personally, I don't like the heat like that. So, but I mean, sometimes it's good weather for going outside, I'll say. But I could deal with an next cold front while it's still.
That's true. That's true. And we're still in February. We usually do get cold. I mean, the weather shifted so much we don't know what to expect anymore. But
I'm holding out hope.
What's that?
I said I'm holding out hope.
Yeah. But over the weekend, it felt a bit like March, which makes me really happy and excited that it's coming around soon. We are, of course, expecting warmer temperatures, though, so do keep that in mind. But it's going to be dry, so if you have outdoor activities planned, you should be fine. And that's good news for some people.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we were talking a bit about what happened over the course of the weekend, and of course the convention, what happened in the trial in Utah, and also we also saw the resignation of the Deputy Prime Minister, Patrick Faber, less than 24 hours after he lost at the leadership convention. I think that I've been paying attention a lot to the feedback that we see online with our stories and our coverage, and I think a lot of people were very surprised. Some were surprised about the convention results, and some, saw it as following through what the candidates and the majority of the party had already committed to. Yesterday's proceedings in court and the information that was revealed, I think what's interesting is that information was probably released around midday or before midday, and we've not heard anything.
Oh, yeah.
There is not a press release, a response, nothing.
I know.
And the silence is deafening.
I agree with you completely. I was expecting something, pretty much immediately after, to at least, put things in context, if not an outright denial. I think that's what we were all expecting based on what has been happening or what has happened in the past. Yeah. So I was also as surprised as you were. I think at the same time, there's probably an element of, what are we going to do next? So there could be a whole lot going on behind the scenes before we get, any sort of real substantial response from the party, let's say.
And I'll be the first to admit, I perhaps understand very little of how the inner dynamics within parties work. And so they probably have issues to resolve there, but there are some questions that are out there that do have implications on the wider public. So there's several. One is inner politics. It's understanding what happened that led to essentially just a turn away from Patrick Faber, who many had seen as being groomed as the next leader for many years, and in fact was the Deputy Prime Minister. And so that's one question that I've had quite a few people asking me about, and there are a lot of theories. We haven't gotten any real response. We haven't heard anything from Honorable Faber himself. But I think the other issue, which was raised by the opposition yesterday, is one that maybe you can shed light, since you are a lawyer, looking at the fact so the Constitution says that the Prime Minister is the leader of the party that has secured the most seats, essentially. On Sunday, we saw Honorable John Saldivar take the oath as leader of the party. And so what does that mean in terms of the role of the Prime Minister?
That's really interesting. I myself did look at it after I saw that press release, and as you say, that is what the Constitution says. In other countries, for example, that happens all the time, where there may be some sort of a challenge to the leadership of the party, or the party does something in line with its constitution. For example, in the UK, it's automatic that if the leader of the party doesn't command a majority of the support of his or her own party, then they have to resign, which has happened very recently. Quite a few times, in recent history. And I think it also happened in Jamaica, if I'm not wrong. But in terms of my interpretation, I think it depends on what exactly the instrument of appointment says, but that also weighed against the Constitution, what it says. It says shall appoint. So after the appointment's been made, the question is whether that lasts until there's an election, or whether it's until the leadership ends. I think if it were to go to court, because it's never been challenged here.
Well, this is what makes this convention unique, because the leadership convention took place while the ruling administration was in power.
Yes.
We've seen leadership conventions with what is the opposition now, but it took place when they were in opposition.
Yep.
So you were saying?
I think that if it were to go to court, based on what happens in other countries, there's a pretty good case to be made that the Prime Minister ought to resign. just because that is what happens in other countries. And I think that because it's not been tried here before, if the court were to look at, principles from other jurisdictions, which would probably be forced to do, that's what would be the likely result.
Yeah. Yeah, I paid attention yesterday, especially to the newscast when we replayed Honorable John Saldivar taking his oath, because what I essentially was looking for was to see what he was called, what he committed to. It wasn't a leader-elect position, and I don't know if within their own party regulations they do have a leader-elect position, because that we do see where someone may be voted in and they become, we just saw it in Guatemala, for example, president-elect until the actual handing over of power.
Exactly.
But we haven't spoken of a leader-elect, and the oath that he took and the words that were used at that very convention didn't reflect that. So I don't know if it perhaps is an afterthought now that may be taking place and what it means. I know the opposition, as we would expect, has said that the Prime Minister is ineligible, but there seems to be, and really and truly, you only become the Prime Minister when the Governor General appoints you.
Exactly.
So, there's no automatic shift when the leader takes place. So I think that's a lingering question that we do need answers to. We shouldn't be left in this unknown state.
I do agree with that. It's for sure. Because to my mind, it does raise a whole lot of issues.
Yeah.
And I think that it needs to be ventilated in, what is the, whatever sort of is the correct forum, whether there needs to be an amendment to certain law to clarify what that provision means, or as is somewhat suggested by that police, they may have to take it to court for an actual pronouncement on what is the proper meaning.
Yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't get to that point. That's just my personal point of view there. Because I just think that we should be able to, like I said, it's been quiet since yesterday, and we do need some answers. I don't think it's fair for the public to be questioning these things and we don't have an official responses yet. So that's another issue that keeps on lingering. And of course, the biggest issue that we know everybody's talking about, we're not being shy about it, is of course what took place in the Lev Derman trial yesterday with the revelation that Jacob Kingston made in his testimony. And of course, he spoke of witnessing a handover of cash between Lev Derman and John Saldivar. He spoke of visiting southern Belize in what he called a Navy boat, for which we are assuming is a Coast Guard boat, along with military personnel. Once again, we have not heard a thing. I assume we can be able to ask the questions to the Coast Guard, especially. They should have records of when these boats go out, who's out with them, when these trips were taken. We know the year. There should be a log as to it's public resources here that we're talking about. But the bigger issue, of course, the elephant in the room, is what does this evidence that has been presented in court mean for the statement that was made before the convention by the Prime Minister, that if in fact he finds out that the cabinet members, any kind of cabinet member lied to him about receiving money from Lev Derman, that he would fire them, essentially. And so we don't know what's going to happen. Now I know what the critics say. The critics say, oh, it's just one man's testimony, and that perhaps because you don't have evidence of a wire transfer or whatever else to say that the funds are handed over, that isn't sufficient evidence. But I think if we are to be logical enough to know that when these types of transactions take place, it is deliberate to not have a paper trail.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that another thing that, to put this in greater context, this is not a case where somebody is, there's two sides. This man is basically giving evidence, having already pleaded guilty, and he's under oath.
Yeah.
So it is evidence for the purposes of what a court is, because even in Belize, what whether it's a civil or a criminal case, what is on the court record is really the evidence that a judge or the jury or whoever will use in order to make whatever is going to be the final determination. So if somebody under oath gives this type of testimony, it's not just like somebody in the street saying so and so, because you like in any court, if you lie, you're at risk of perjuring yourself and increasing whatever liability you have.
Yeah.
He's trying to get a deal, so he's being as forthcoming as he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that, in our minds, we have to be conscious that the statements in and of themselves have to be given a little bit more weight than, because of the context in which they're being given. And, think about that. And then when it comes to evidence, I think this is still an ongoing thing. I mean, this is a case of defrauding, allegedly defrauding the U.S. government. And certainly I know from my experience as an attorney, they have long arms. They legislate, they investigate outside the country, doing everything. So, I mean, having that sort of thing come out, I don't think is the end.
You mentioned something I think that has been a part of the way I've perceived this, and because it's a plea deal. If I am going to offer you a lesser sentence to try to get your co-conspirator to face the charges and to go to jail and face whatever consequences, I'm gonna do my due diligence. And it's not just some lawyer who got up and said, I'm gonna take this to court. This is the US government saying, okay, you tell me what you know, you give me factual information that will hold weight in court that I can be able to prosecute this man. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't flawed systems, but I will say that we can be able to assume that there has been work done in terms of investigating what information would come out of court, especially in Jacob Kingston's testimony, because he's the key witness, and he is essentially the person who says, I will give you all the facts that I know. I mean, if you go to somebody, try to make a plea deal and lie, they're going to turn you away because they can make you face the full consequence of your actions.
Yeah, for sure.
The plea deal is only helpful if you're going to give me facts that are going to work and stand in court.
Yeah, I mean, typically this is done a lot in the States for organized crime in general. So a lot of people who turn state witnesses or who cut deals with the government, this is kind of how it works. You're supposed to be as forthcoming as possible. You give as much information as possible in order, where you're concerned, maybe you get a lesser sentence, maybe you get, freed on some charges or whatever, but what you give is a basis for them to proceed with further investigations or to confirm what has already been found. So it's definitely a very interesting situation based on what's happening politically here.
Well, of course, and I thought that was a necessary point, because I remember the Attorney General saying in an interview, kind of dismissing the idea of a man giving a testimony as a part of a plea bargain, and I thought it was a bit misleading, because as the Attorney General, he would know more than anyone that if someone has made that type of a deal, there's some due diligence that takes place. You don't just put someone on the stand to lie.
Yes. Yeah, because the whole point of having offered him a deal in the first place is because whatever evidence or material they've gathered is already of a sufficient standard to say, look, we've got this, or we have close, we've got all the information we need that links you to this. If this goes to trial, this is what you're facing. Rather than actually go to a trial and face the full extent of whatever punishment the law provides, if you're honest, or you can tell us, give us this information, and that's and we're gonna either lessen your sentence or let you go or lessen some or drop some of the charges. I mean, that's what a plea deal is. So it's somebody who says, yes, I'm pleading guilty, I'm accepting liability personally, but in exchange for my cooperation and providing further evidence or information, as the case may be. So it's as we said, it's more than just a normal case of. It's not as if somebody's just wrote a blog or made a video and then just with these crazy sort
you're
of things.
under oath.
Yeah, it is under oath.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You
There's
know-
no, and then in that context, you're saying if you've already accepted that you're guilty, what's the reason to lie?
Lots of questions there. You know, I do believe, though, Gavin, I think and it's becoming clearer and clearer from the testimony that's been put forward, that there's far more that has taken place in terms of Lev Derman's connections in Belize, in how they were using the money that they obtained in the U.S. here in the country. We heard of a purchase of property. We know they have a gaming company registered in Belize, Lions Gaming. We know that Washakie Energy provided money to the University of Utah to do research at Paradise Shrimp Farm. And so we know all of these things. Now, I mean, I'm not building any connections. I'm just saying that these are things that have been set in court so far that do have a connection with Belize. Now, whether or not it was laundering money or where the money came from or it was legitimate business, we don't know as yet. But there is still a lot more that we are yet to find out.
I know, and I'm sure that, like everybody else watching, we're super curious and interested in finding out where all this will go, and finding out the extent of whatever sort of practices they were legitimate or illegitimate, because there's just so much up in the air right now.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that was kind of just a chit chat. We know that this is essentially what everybody's talking about from yesterday, probably into this morning. And we will keep following the case, and we will keep following what happens here as well, when and if we get a response from the government, from Honorable Saldivar. And we'll be sharing that with you as that happens. We're going to continue with what we have lined up here. Of course, it's time for our eye-opener for this morning. A little bit of motivation to get you started. And our eye-opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. A deep feeling of gratitude can emerge as we open to the experience of being helped. Most of us pride ourselves on our self-sufficiency. We like to be responsible for taking care of ourselves and pulling our own weight in the world. This is why it can be so challenging when we find ourselves in a situation in which we have to rely on someone else. This can happen as the result of an illness or an injury, or even in the case of a positive change, such as the arrival of a newborn. At times like these, it is essential that we let go of our feeling that we should be able to do it all by ourselves and accept the help of others. Too often we make things worse, either by trying to do more than we should or by lapsing into feelings of uselessness. This causes us to run the risk of actually prolonging our dependency. It takes wisdom and strength to surrender to our helplessness and to accept that we, just like every other human being, have limitations. The gifts of surrender are numerous. We discover humility, gratitude, and a deepening understanding of the human experience that enables us to be that much more compassionate and surrendered in the world.
I need to hear that. No, that's true. It is a bad habit of mine, for sure. Not asking for help when you do need it, or just really trying to push through. In whatever I might be doing, and then eventually, when you do ask for that help that you need, or if it's offered to you and you do take it, and then you do realize, like, why was I struggling with this? Or it would have been so much easier, or I could have been easier on myself, I should say. And and as it rightfully says, it increases your opportunity to become compassionate and just increase your connection with others, I do think. So for sure, I do have to remind myself of that all the time. All the time.
We all do, and I think it is especially difficult for men, and it has become also difficult for women who perhaps are trying to take on family responsibilities on their own, single mothers especially, or women who are on their own. It just becomes, we see asking for help as a sign of weakness. And it's not.
Yeah.
You know, this is essentially how anything is created. It's by teamwork, it's by groups, it's by like-minded people coming together. And it goes from some of the big things that we see happening to just the little day-to-day activities in your house. If you need help with the kids, if you need help with work-related duties. And so it becomes one of those things that you do have to become more comfortable with in time.
And it's true for a lot of younger people as well, like especially if you're just out of school and you're just working, or if you have a new job and you're really anxious to like prove yourself, or you know, test what your own limits are.
Yeah.
People really do try to do too much a lot of the time, and it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you're also prone to making mistakes when you do that, if you don't ask for that help, especially if it's from somebody more experienced, or you know, somebody who could just help you in some way.
Yeah.
It could have made the ride a whole lot smoother. So you know, if a lot of people who are younger and stuff, you know, you don't have to do everything by yourself. As you'll probably learn that lesson the hard way. But yeah, try to keep that in mind.
That's right. If you need help, don't be scared to ask for it. Right. And a little bit of morning tea very quickly. And so keeping in theme with what we have been seeing, yesterday, Honorable Patrick Faber submitted his resignation, or he posted it at least on his Facebook. And we have actually been seeing quite a bit of official responses and announcement being made directly on social media. Very, very reminiscent of what we see in North America with President Trump. So what are your thoughts on whether official announcements should be made on social media?
You know, my initial reaction to this question is to say that, you know, I don't really like it. I don't think it's an appropriate medium for that sort of thing. But I see the benefit in getting it to a wide audience of people in a very short time, because there's usually automatically, and you know, just in the first case, a bigger audience, because like, let's say if it's Facebook or if it's Instagram, especially if you're a public figure, you usually will have thousands of people viewing your whatever content you post instantly. But then as a second stage, people share, people send screenshots, people do everything. So you can get news out so fast via social media. The downfall or the risk, I would say, is that it's still very prone to things like hacking, things like things like hacking. People can edit information, or people can falsify information, online records. People can just write anything or create a fake profile. And we've seen tons of cases as that. You know, there have been releases, purported releases, I should say, from both parties, from politicians, from public figures, and you know, everybody has to say, please do not listen to this, or please do not read this is not real. So I think that's the risk.
Yeah, you know, I have very similar thoughts to you on this one. At first, my thoughts are, you know, this is kind of just recognizing the way the world is working. And in fact, we are driven by consuming content on mobile platforms, tablets, or phones. But what I think is kind of the blurred line is recognizing that we also give people an easy out, because you can post something and we start to quote you, and then you come back and maybe you had a change of heart and you say, well, you know, I was hacked.
Yes.
How do I prove it? You know, it's not a public system, a secured system specifically for the purpose of getting out official information. It is, you know, a social media platform. So I think that's one of the things that I think is a bit of a discrepancy. I say use both mediums.
Exactly.
I say if you've sent out something officially, then you at least have that for confirmation that this is a valid post that is being made. The other part of it is, when do you separate personal from professional? And I know very early into the Trump presidency, this was what a lot of news media struggled with. Like, how do you separate his tweets from that of the president of the presidential office
Yes.
itself. So I think that is also one that is they clearly just followed through on responding and reporting on all of his tweets. But whether or not we will face that kind of those kind of questions in the near future is another one.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be more of an issue as time moves forward. But I 100% agree with you in saying that there needs to be both.
Yeah.
I think that if there's rumors or if there's information that's being spread about official information, then I think that there needs to be some sort of source to confirm that whatever is being said is true. So if there's an official release, let there be an official release through the established channels,
Yeah.
and then post it on social media so
Yeah.
that it reaches a wider audience, you know?
Absolutely. All right, so that's morning tea for today. You can go ahead and chime in on what your thoughts are on this. Go ahead and you can comment on our live stream, share your post online, and let people know what you're thinking or get the conversation started at work. But speaking of work, we got to get moving into our show for today.
Yeah.
And we are going to start off with a conversation with the National Trade Union Congress of Belize. We know that last week they held a press conference speaking specifically about the follow-up on UNCAC. We're going to get the details from the president of the NTUCB this morning.
And then for our second conversation, we are going to be joined by the National Anti-Doping Organization of Belize, and they are going to be telling us all about the work they do in sports and monitoring anti-doping in Belize.
All right, and we're closing off as Valentine's Day gets closer. Ras Indio is in. He has a special Valentine's song for the Love Day coming up. And he's going to be premiering that video in the final part of our show. So that's what we have lined up for this morning. We have a break to take, but before we do, we got that birthday shout out.
Yeah, so from all of us at Open Your Eyes on Channel 5, we are wishing a very, very, very happy birthday to Jackie Belisle. So happy birthday, Jackie. We hope you have a great one. We're wishing you all the best and many, many, many more.
That's right. And with that, we'll take that break and we will be back with a conversation with the NTUCB. So please. we're back, and we are moving into our first conversation for this morning. We are joined at this time by the president of the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, Marvin Mora. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Marvin, of course, just to continue the conversation or continue the discussion on the issue, the last time you were here, it was on the International Day Against Corruption, and we were talking about the UNCAC. Subsequently, last week, we saw a press conference where the NTUCB is speaking out loudly saying that you want to see movement on the rollout of UNCAC. Talk to me, if you could update us from what happened in December when you said you were going to pressure for the committee to get started again with the meetings to up to last week.
Right. A couple of developments and updates like we gave on our last press briefing. What happened at that time was that we were scheduled to have our annual general meeting in December, which we did, and there was a resolution that was cast by the general membership. This is the highest decision-making body of the Congress.
Okay.
That's when all delegates have all unions have equal footings in terms of the number of delegates. So regardless of how small your union, you have 8 delegates that represent you. Our 10 affiliates were properly represented. We met at our key caucus, and we had our AGM there. And out of that, the one thing that was very clear to us was that the members are really not satisfied with the way the UNCAC is being addressed, especially as it relates to its implementation. Our representative, who has been in this show already, Brother Hubert Enriquez, sits at that committee that is the one that monitors the implementation, studies recommendations, and make further adjustments if there will be the need for that. But the point, or the entire purpose of that committee, is really and truly to have some mechanism that would monitor the implementation, that would trigger alarms. Well, this is one of the alarms, right? You cannot have a plan where you do not have certain spot checks to measure your progress.
Yeah.
This is the mechanism through which the entire community, because that committee is not made out of only the NTUCB.
No.
There are members from all other NGOs as well, inclusive of government.
Yeah, and the private sector.
And the opposition.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, our people have been resolute now in writing that they're not going to let it slide if we do not see meaningful progress.
So, of course, you have already received the response, and what the government is saying at this time is that they are holding off until they get the country assessment that was done. And if people can remember the process, it was having other countries come in, look at the laws we have, look at the processes that exist, how they're being used, and kind of giving us a baseline, a starting point, saying you're here and this is how far you have to go.
Well, we find it absolutely astonishing, for the lack of a better word. Because if you read the review that has already been published, the executive summary actually, the executive summary actually is a list of recommendations, and those recommendations are based on the assessments that were made by the experts. So there is absolutely no need to wait for the government to publish its own report, because that summary outlines all the necessary areas, the basic necessary areas that need to be addressed. And one of them, key, and I have to take a little step back here. We have not heard any one of the parties, inclusive of the People's United Party, who is in the opposition, come out and articulate and fully support the implementation of the UNCAC, especially as it relates to campaign financing. They have been mute on the subject. So we have to call them out on that.
Absolutely.
We had this discussion at the table, and it is obvious for us that it has to be the NTUCB along with civil society to ensure that all the necessary ingredients of the UNCAC come to fruition. Otherwise, it will be business as usual.
Well, I think the challenge is that you can't get this ball rolling on your own.
Of course
and
not.
as you said, there is
Yes,
a
sir.
committee that is established. It is the implementation of the UNCAC falls under the Attorney General's office. And so we know that clearly there has to be engagement on all fronts. So the NTUCB has spoken out. Have you engaged with other committee members, other civil societies, the private sector? The last time I know you had a representative from the chamber here with you,
Yeah.
talking about the stall in the implementation.
We are all in this together. There is absolutely no way, you're 100% right, that the NTUCB can accomplish this on their own. However, there is a couple bits of strategy that we have already employed before. And one of them is this exactly. We have to educate the public. All right, let me put it to you in simple terms so that all of us can understand. I know we are aware that there is a lot of consternation amongst educated voters. I'm not speaking about hardcore PUPs or hardcore UDPs. I'm talking about the persons who make an educated vote, the ones that stick to the issues, listen to what is happening, and make a choice based on the policies that will be presented by those parties through their manifestos. Fine. We are telling these people, you believe that there is no other choice, that it's either one color or the other or a third party. We are telling you that there is a choice, and the choice is fix the system. That is the choice. That there is absolutely no other choice other than continuing with business as usual regardless of who you put in. So for us it's very clear. Fix the system so that whosoever comes in, and that will be up to the electorate. The electorate has to decide which party they want back in power. But it has to be that it cannot be on the same status quo. It cannot be business as usual. We have to change the rules of the game. There must be accountability, must be transparency, and there must be penalties to be paid by whosoever violates the law.
So what would you then say to somebody, and I'm sure you've heard this response as well, a lot of people are quite cynical as it relates to politics, and they say, well, you know, ideally that's what I would want, but at the end of the day, maybe I'm faced with a choice where I have to choose either between like the lesser of two evils, or, you know, if I vote for the party or somebody who says that they're going to implement that, it's not that they're going to win. It's that, you know, either the established ones, the status quo is just going to continue. What would your response then be to somebody who says that?
Rome was not built on a day. We don't expect that things will change overnight. What we do expect, and that's why we articulate it, what we do expect is that the government decides on the side of logic. There are certain portions of the recommendations that are very easy for the government to pass.
Like which ones?
For example, we have recommendations that deal with the pact and its structure. That one is very easy for the government to address. In fact, we've seen more complicated legislation go through 3 readings at the House. So there's absolutely no excuse for them to decide what they're going to do and what they're going to do to address it. The recommendations, and the list is quite narrow, it's not that wide, but the recommendations are to strengthen those monitoring mechanisms, for example, that already exist. The PAC is one of them.
The Public Accounts
The
Committee.
Public Accounts Committee. Then we also have the Office of the Auditor General that needs a lot of strengthening and a lot of investment, right? Then we have Contractor General's office. It's not only putting a Contractor General, it is reinforcing that office so that they can actually do some work, some serious work. Imagine you have to vet over 100 contracts every month with minute details that might escape you if you're not careful. And you have a limited staff, limited amount of resources and finances. Plus you have to go to the workplaces and do worksite inspections and create very detailed reports on what your recommendations are. Can you imagine the magnitude of that job, to have it being done by 4 or 5 people, that is nearly impossible, if not impossible.
So your starting point is looking at the existing oversight structures that do exist: the Public Accounts Committee, the Integrity Commission, the Auditor General's Office, and the Contractor General's Office.
Right. That is right.
That's where you would want to see.
That is right, because those are the mechanisms that easily addressed because they already exist. It's not like you have to create anything out of nothing. They're already there, and all they need is a little revamping so that they can function properly. Now, if you are going to say that you are waiting on a report coming from an external party when recommendations have been clearly outlined, specifically outlined within the summary executive, then obviously it's clear that you probably have no intentions in addressing accountability and transparency, because those mechanisms are already there, actually drive at the heart of accountability and transparency. But we have more than that. At the end of the day, I think the best to call out which one of them would be easily implementable would be the government itself. But they just can't lay back and say, well, we'll wait for Johnny over yonder and he's not moving. That is definitely out of the question. Any educated person will look at that report and would realize that, yes, there are certain things that would take a little bit longer to implement. For example, we were speaking about financing for campaigns, right, for political campaigns, to be clear. Obviously, that would need serious discussion at the House and at different levels in society. Fine, that's understandable. But you cannot articulate that your position is that you don't even worry about that. That cannot be it, because for us, the educated voters, we definitely want to see your position, your policy, to be aiming at addressing that. Obviously, if you are not aiming at that, it's clear to us that you want business as usual.
You know, you said that what the union wants to do at this point is to educate the people. You call them educated. Some people may call them non-aligned. They're not aligning themselves with any party. They try to be more critical.
That is right. Yeah.
But in fact, I think you have a harder sell than the politicians at this point.
Obviously.
Because we're in a very cynical state. I mean, when you talk to people, and even if you read kind of the things you see online and the sentiment every time there's a scandal or issue or a political issue that arises, people say the same thing. Oh, it's never going to change. They're tired, but they feel helpless. So how do you, as the union who wants to move towards education and empowerment, try to move people out of that state?
Cool. That is a very interesting question. First of all, we're not going to assume that our people are not smart enough to realize the difference. We're going to assume, and we have to, because we have to give our people the due respect, that they can see through the thickness of all the lies and all the misinterpretation of the facts on the ground, and that they can zero in on a simple fact. Nothing changes, nothing will change if it's not driven by the people. The changes that will happen that are driven by the political parties are superficial, and that's simple, because if I am in the business of politics and something is of benefit to me, why would I want to change it on my own? I have to be pressured, and that's common sense. But on the other hand, we also understand that they have to weigh in consequences, right? Some of them would be looking at their jobs, for example. Do I put my career on the line to go and support something that may come back and haunt me down the lane? Or I am in a particular business where I may need from the current administration or the incoming administration.
You may need the business, yeah.
That is right. So we understand that. And that's why it is key for us to understand that the NTUCB cannot go at it alone. Right now, we are sounding the alarm. There is a window between 3 to 5 years where the implementation of the first 2 phases have to come to fruition. We are almost at the end, and we have not even gone through the first entire set of recommendations. So obviously that is telling us something, that we are lagging behind the process, and we cannot allow that. So what the government should be doing at this point in time is analyzing those areas that they can easily address and start to put a plan together. In fact, one of the things that we are calling for is for the reconvening of the committee that was already there, because that committee was the one that was driving some of the process. So if you remove that committee, there's a void there. There is no need for you to do anything.
It's not been removed though, it's just been defunct.
Well, it's default.
Yeah,
Since February last year,
Yeah.
we have not had a meeting.
A full year.
Yeah. And we understand that government officials, for example, the Attorney General take umbrage to certain things, right? I mean, everybody is human, and whenever they feel that the certain level of pressure that is coming from an NGO such as the NTUCB, their egos are hurt, right? Obviously, their egos may be huge as well, so there will be a lot of room for hurting. But that's not our issue. Our issue is addressing the matter with logic.
Yeah.
What can be addressed, address. And what needs to have a plan or a strategy in place, put it in place. And putting the committee back to function so that we can actually get the work done. Otherwise, we'll be having this conversation every day in the media, nothing will move.
Well, I mean, you spoke earlier of having timelines built into the implementation of UNCAC and nearing the end of what should have been the first phase.
That is right.
What has taken place last week, I mean, we kind of skipped it over. It's not just that you're saying, let's get the ball moving.
No.
You threw down the gauntlet. You set a deadline. You said end of February.
That's right.
Or else.
And
And
we'll
so
have-
my question is, or else what?
Well then, I just want to remind the general public of the following. The NTUCB cannot move with the support that we need. We need that support from our general membership. We are trying our best to stay out of party politics. That's why you see we speaking about every single aspect of this issue. We don't know, and you don't know, and nobody knows who will be the next administration. We have absolutely no clue. We don't even expect either or either. Our best guess is that it could be anyone. That's our best guess. And obviously now that should be more than enough, sufficiently clear to everybody that we are not in the business of party politics, but we are in the business of politics. Because this business hurts all of us. And if at the end of the day, our people cannot lend us the support that we need, we're going to fail and fail miserably right along the way in implementation of this set of legislations and regulations that are badly needed.
I really appreciate what you said, and I think perhaps we don't say it enough in general, which is the separation between what is partisan politics
That
and
is
just
right. That is
politics,
right.
which is the governing of a country.
That is right.
But it's very hard for people,
Oh, yes.
everyday people, you know,
Sure.
somebody on their commute to Belmopan right now to go work in a department office, to see their subscription to the PSU and subsequently to the
That is
NTUCB,
right.
and perhaps agree with your perspective that we should get this ball moving, but they recognize that while they may be non-aligned
Yeah.
in terms of the way things are perceived in this country, you're either with or against, and
Right.
that makes you red or blue. And so
Right.
the protection mechanisms as well, the strength of things like the Public Service Union and by extension the
That is
NTUCB
right.
to protect its workers if they do fall victim to any kind of political victimization.
Sure. Let's not forget that there are a lot of fail-safe mechanisms. For example, the Public Service Union exists to protect the right of the workers. They have done so many times successfully. That is one. Two, there is also the Public Service Commission that would not necessarily be a deterrent to any politician wanting to target a specific individual for supporting a cause, right? But those mechanisms are already in place. But the biggest protection that the membership can have is advocacy amongst their own self. So we cannot expect that the NTUCB will do all the work. We also have our affiliates on the ground having certain level of responsibilities on their shoulders. So, but stick a pin on what you said. I want to come back to it and I want to be emphatically clear. Logic should prevail over emotions. Should, right? And we want to be emphatically clear. We don't know who will win. And it doesn't matter us. What we want is ensuring that whosoever comes in has to follow through with the implementation of the UNCAC, period.
Which is why you want to get it started now.
That is right.
Before the next election.
That is right. Because if we would have sounded this alarm after a particular government comes in, then people would obviously say, well, and whatever, whosoever won. We're not in that business. We want to ensure that it starts now.
So, and you're also up on the anniversary of what you'd call the failed committee at this point. 1 year and no meetings.
Right,
but,
right.
you know, it's almost 1 week. Have you heard any response? Have you gotten notification of the convening of a meeting, of additional support from other entities? Something to indicate to you that the NTUCB is not the Lone Ranger advocating for the implementation?
Well, we have always received commendations from other NGOs, inclusive of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who are very interested in addressing this matter. But we received a call at our General Secretary. He received a call from the Prime Minister, and he's already amenable to have a meeting established between the EAG and the NTUCB. We don't anticipate it to be a very jovial kind of a meeting. The setting must be serious because the issues that we're addressing is serious. But we want to maintain that very respectful because we want the best of our country. This is not about who has the biggest guns. This is about simple logic. There are certain things that need to happen and they must happen. And the excuses cannot be that we as a country are waiting on an external party. That is absolutely ridiculous. So where is our sovereignty? You have a question, where is your sovereignty?
And I'd like to counter that by telling you some of the other excuses we typically hear. One, the Attorney General's office is short-staffed and there's a lot to do.
That is right.
That there is a lack of resources.
Right.
That it takes time to prepare legislation.
Right.
Because the UNCAC does require quite a bit of shifts within internal systems.
All right. So within our logic prevailing, and this is the conversation that will have to happen, and all things being considered, what would be the reasonable deadline to start implement those that are easily accomplishable, the low-hanging fruits from the tree? So the conversation have to happen. We are not just a group of rogue individuals. I want to emphatically put that point out there for the viewers. We are a group of workers, from professional workers to technical workers to menial job workers, that come together, discuss the issues from different angles, different points of view, and we sit down around the table and we ensure that we give credence to our values. We want to ensure fairness in the process. We were involved in the process, we are still involved in the process, and we will continue to be involved in the process. We know that some people may not necessarily be happy about that, but that's the nature of governance. As a responsible government, they must realize that inclusion is the way to go. If you start to sound the alarm of exclusion, then we're going to live in a different place and different things will have to happen.
Now, there's been so much time that has passed between the signing of the UNCAC and now.
That is right.
And I think it's very important to be able to remind everyone how the signing of the UNCAC came about. In fact, it was your member union who
that is right.
literally went out to the streets in protest.
Right.
And one of the issues, because there were several, was to be able to sign on to the UNCAC.
That is right.
It is the United Nations Convention Against Corruption.
Right.
And when this administration made the decision to sign on to it, this was a great move. But do you feel now that perhaps it was just to appease the demands at that time and it was never really a serious intent?
Our feelings in this situation are out of the question for right now. what we are looking at is facts. The fact is that they already signed it. That's number one fact. Number two fact is that those implementations actually have standard timelines that must be adhered to. That's another fact, because those are established by experience in other countries where UNCAC is also being implemented. And three, the other fact is that we are lagging behind. We have not completed the areas that we should be complete by the timeline that we already have exhausted, right? So putting that into perspective, we are addressing the issue by going along the lines of facts, so that we leave our emotions out of it, our feelings and all of these things, and we deal with the issues using logic and facts.
So let's tap into some other feelings then. For the people who are watching, who are exhausted of hearing words of accountability, transparency, good governance, and very little action, how do you remind them as to what or tell them what significant changes can come with even the low-hanging fruit that you talk about? Because you're saying the recommendations includes things that can be done within a short timeline.
That is right.
What difference will it make?
All right.
I'm sure you hear that on the street all the time.
Sure. Huge differences. For example, we keep complaining about contracts that are being handed out to friends and families and the exorbitant amounts that they charge to build a road or a bridge or stuff like that. That is one of the areas that can be addressed by the Contractor General's office. If that is strengthened, if that is functioning properly, then our monies will be spent efficiently. So you will actually get a buck for your money. That's one. Two, whenever government allocates monies for spending within the cabinet, in different departments and so forth, you actually have a committee that, if empowered, properly structured, can function to ensure that those monies are properly allocated and that we will have efficiency on those as well. You'll be saving millions and millions and millions, and it'll be exponential to the point where the cost of living in the country would start to level off, and you will be able to live a better life with the salary that you have. So every one of us wins down the lane. Obviously, this is not a process that can happen overnight, because things got out of control, not overnight. It's over tens of years, decades. So we have to address the issue in a manner that is long-term and progressive. And progressive is the key word, because it cannot be progressive if nothing is happening.
And I think people are also interested in knowing what is going to happen if somebody does something wrong. Because, I mean, to that, I think some people would also say that, but there are some laws that are already existing or whatever, and people just sort of break them with impunity, more or less. So, you know.
Well, some of the things that are within the context of understanding have to be looked at in detail. If the laws are there, because if there's a law that says something is wrong, it's not sufficient enough. There must be some sort of punitive measure that is attached to it. Saying that you shouldn't sit by the monitor is not enough. If you sit by the monitor, what will happen to you for breaking that law? So those are the aspects of the law that the UNCAC has to address, and that's the reason why you have a steering committee to ensure that those go in as well, because it will provide the necessary teeth to the already existing legislation, and it will add in more legislation to strengthen those that exist.
So you got a call from the Prime Minister's office indicating that the meeting will be arranged clearly before February, because that was the end of February, that was the deadline you said. What is the next step?
The next step is listening to the logic of what they will present or what will be their position, trying to work out some agreement. We need, as I explained, we need the support from the membership. Then going back to the table to decide, okay, from here, we have seen A, B, C as our possible alternative measures. Where do we stand? And then let our council guide us forward.
When is that meeting scheduled for?
Well, it would have to be at the
given you
end
a
of
date?
February. No, they have, as far as I'm concerned, they have not, but more than likely it'll definitely have to be before the end of the month, so that we can understand whether or not they want to move forward or whether they will insist in something that is illogical.
All right. Well, we will keep on following. Thank you for coming in and updating us.
Thank you very much as well.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to be talking about the National Anti-Doping Organization in Belize. So stay tuned.
With over 100 years of
And we are back. And joining us for our second conversation, we are speaking with the National Anti-Doping Organization of Belize, and they are going to be updating us on some of the education that they are doing. And joining us this morning is Carla Slusher, who is the director of the National Anti-Doping Organization of Belize. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here today.
All right, Carlos, aka Charlie,
yeah.
right?
AKA
Without the R, Charlie.
Charlie.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
So, doping is not something we talk about very often. And in fact, for any sports enthusiast, if we look at international games, we know it is an extremely critical part of being able to rise to success. The National Doping Organization of Belize had its challenges a few years ago. Let's step back and talk about the establishment, what got us into that phase where we were disqualified from the regional organization. Let's start with that.
Okay,
and
I
then we'll
think,
move forward.
like you said, doping is something you would say practically new in our society, but surprisingly for a lot of people that the organization, the government of Belize signed an international convention against doping in sports from 2004.
Oh,
It was
wow.
ratified in 2011, and the National Anti-Doping Organization was established in 2009. So it's basically over 10 years that we had to establish the organization basically to ensure that we are in compliance with the convention. So that's some of the role that the NADA does. But we for over that period of year, we were basically not doing a lot of things that, well, we got established, but then from there where we would go. So I think after we got suspended, a lot of people know that we got suspended from the regional body in
Yes,
2018, and from there the whole structure had to be changed and revamped. WADA basically told us, and the regional body told us, hey, you guys need to be a fully functioning anti-doping organization if you want to continue doing that. Basically, everything that we used to do as an organization was delegated to the regional body, which was testing. Whatever an organization does, we had to rely on the regional body because we had nothing in place to do it on our own locally. So the good thing about WAD and the regional body, okay, we were suspended, but they were like, okay, you guys need to get back on track. This is how we're going to do it. There was a development plan that we concentrated on last year to get everything that we needed to place. For example, we had like 21 critical actions that needed to be done.
That's a long list.
Yes, and a deadline. Then we had 49 high priority things that needed to get done and 10 important. So it just shows, if you're just looking at the 21 critical, and it was a lot of things that we were behind. And
was it just that we did not take the idea? Now, doping means that somebody's using an illegal substance or a banned substance to enhance their performance in a sport. Was it that we just we took it for granted that people were following the process, or we didn't feel the need to scrutinize our athletes before?
I think, like you said, it's something new, but I think it falls on our shoulder because although we were doing testing, we missed out one of the most fundamental, important part of the whole duty of the anti-doping organization, which is the education aspect, to show about bring the doping to reality to people to accept, and the importance of protecting the integrity of the sports and all that, and the fair play, because it's unfair to anybody to be working hard and somebody dope and enjoying the benefit. But the key thing is that our job is twofold, is to really simple stop people from cheating and benefit from it. If you want to cheat and you know the benefit, fine, but when you're a benefit, you're winning all the money, you're getting all the prestige to be on the national team, you're working hard and you can't because somebody's it's considered cheating.
Yes.
So and the next important aspect of it that a lot of people do not see, you only see doping and want to catch you. No. One of the most important aspect is your health, your career. So indirectly, the NADA is also protecting the individual athlete's health and well-being, that after you stop playing or after you stop competing, you can live a healthy life, because a lot of times these substances are very detrimental.
So who NADO is responsible for testing. How often and which organizations?
Well, NADO really works under the World Anti-Doping Agency. And
Yeah.
Again, we are a board member of the Regional Anti-Doping Organization of Central America. But we are basically an independent organization that deals with the anti-doping and all the testing. But we are funded and basically, you call it a compliance platform. Is made up of the government of Belize, since they are the one that signed the convention, as well as the National Olympic Committee. So a lot of the funding and a lot of the support comes from
Yeah.
them, and I must compliment both organizations, the NOC as well as the government of Belize, for really making a difference when it comes to getting the NADO established the way that we were supposed to do it last year. So those are the...
So in Belize, we've heard of issues with cyclists. You test usually, and we hear after cross country, we know there's random and they're the winners.
Yeah.
But what about the other sports? Which
well,
other sports
well,
are you doing?
surprisingly, we have done, last year we've done bodybuilding, canoeing, we have done football, we volleyball. This year, well, late last year we have done. So we, in the past, like I said, a lot of things were not in place. For example, one of the things we also had to do was we had to do a risk assessment and a test distribution plan for the year, and send it to WADA, and they would approve it. And that basically, you look at the sports that are benefiting the most, the durability, the demand of the sports. Like if you look at canoeing or cycling, to ride a bike those amount of miles, so that might motivate you to want to take some kind of performance enhancement. The money, the prize, what are you getting if you win? Thousands of dollars. So those are some of the motivating factors that athletes might take. So those will be, that's why in the past, cycling was one of the most sport that was being tested because of the
amount of prizes.
The amount of prizes.
Well, of
and
course,
money.
only in the male one, right?
But at the end of the day, our job is more than just that. So we have started to test more sports, and likewise in 2020, we have in our test distribution plan, we have most of the major sports: volleyball, football, basketball, canoeing, bodybuilding, cycling, and that's why we have, during this year, like I said, we have been working on the education campaign. We have since met and did workshop with the Canoe Association, Cricket Federation, and the Football Federation of Belize, and we will continue to be working with the so that we could.
Well, speaking of education, a lot of people, whenever they hear about doping or performance-enhancing drugs, they automatically just think steroids, when in reality, it's a wide range of substances, legal and illegal, prescription, over-the-counter. So is part of the education campaign also informing the athletes about what kinds of substances you're looking for? Because it's also updated, you know.
You're definitely right, and you have, WADA has a prohibited list that is every beginning of the year, each year it comes out fresh, and it's on our website or on the WADA website that tells you about that. But it also warns athletes to be very careful in what you take, because a lot of times something might say natural, but it has banned substance in it, because a lot of times when it comes to like those type of products, they are not regulated as much as certain things. But part of this education process is to let athlete support personnel to know how to deal with these issues, because a lot of time as an athlete, I know in the past a coach will come and holler, take this here, help her. But we as athlete, we are like, help her for what? Well, yeah, that's what make yearly energy, but we are so naive at those points that we might just take that, but you as an athlete, responsible for what you take. According to the code and the rule, you responsible for what you take. So you
can tell your coach, no, you can't come back and say, coach, give me.
No.
Or somebody tricked me to drink it or eat it or whatever.
Yes.
And I think Gavin made a really good point. There's certain medicines that you may take if you're sick that actually include substances that are banned. Do you think that it's wide enough knowledge in the sporting community?
And that's why WADA has something called a therapeutic use exemption.
Okay.
That if you are ill, you might need to take a banned substance. But there's a procedure that you can apply for that. But the key thing about that is that whatever substance or whatever medication you need, should only help you to get back healthy, not to give you a performing edge. And it should be the only alternative there is. Like, for example, a simple example would be maybe a Tylenol to morphine. If you can take the Tylenol, then that, but you want morphine, then you might, the doctor will
So
probably.
it has to be justifiable.
It has to
that
be
you
justifiable,
need that
and
type of
it goes
medication.
through a strict procedure where a doctor has to certify it and examine you,
Yeah.
and the therapeutic use exemption committee that will go through that is made up of all doctors and stuff, so they will examine it and see.
So two critical things. One is the selection of athletes, because we've heard athletes complain before that they feel that they are specifically targeted for doping tests. So I'd love to get an explanation as to how athletes are selected for tests.
Well, most of the time we have in-competition testing and out-of-competition. In-competition testing, basically you are selected randomly. You are selected by placement. So for example, if you look at the cross country, there's a mission order and we say, okay, we'll test first, second, and third. We don't know who those person is, so it's not prejudice. So you by placement, it will be first, second, and third. And one of the most effective strategies is what you call target. You are targeted for a particular reason. And surprisingly, the last two athletes that is now serving a ban for was caught from the target, because the random is not as effective when you juggle.
Target as in you recognize a change in performance and you deliberately want
Or
to test them?
if I look at cycling, you always hear about one cyclist win up everything. But because they might know that they will be testing first place, you see they ease off at the tip and they don't. But they won all the money, all the prizes. So that person would be
So that
targeted.
kind of behavior would trigger
yes,
a
would
test.
trigger the way you perform, and then you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have sometimes a delegated positions, first, second, third.
placement. Then you have the random. You could select some names out.
And there's guidance for random,
yes,
right?
Yes, there's guidance.
Okay. And then you have the actual targeted
Yes, targeted.
investigations.
And one of the things too is that you cannot be one of the top athletes being part of the national team and don't believe that you will be tested. Once you participate at the international level or at the national level, you can be tested at any time. That's the simple rule.
And another thing is looking at the testing itself, how it is conducted, what type of transparency exists, and also just the facilities to be able to test.
Yes, that's one of the most important things about it, because with WADA you have something called international standard of testing. All these things, if you do not follow those procedures from beginning to end, the samples will be null and void at the end of the day. Whether there's a positive or whatever, it can be ruled out. So the drug control officer that does these tests has to be trained and accredited. In the past, a lot of times, anyone could have been, oh, you're a doctor, or you could be, not necessarily because you're a doctor, you can be a drug, you have to be trained and accredited by WADA. So all these things, because again, as much as the process you want to catch, whoever is treating the athlete has a lot of rights. You have to protect their privacy and you have to ensure that there is no prejudice or anything against this person. So, like I'm saying, I cannot go out at the event and say, oh, I want to test Marilena, I want to test this one or that one. No, those things have to be set from before the event, that we will set first, second. For example, if we are already sent to WADA that we set first, second, and third, we cannot change that on the day of the event because of somebody tell me, oh, check Charlie, or check this one, I think it's more. No, it doesn't work like that when it comes to certain things. So we still have to the integrity, the handling, because some of the first thing that WADA or the regional body will look at, or the results management panel will look at if there is a positive. For example, Charlie Slusher has a positive. The first thing they will look at, did I have a therapeutic use exemption form to use that substance? The next thing would be the standard of testing, was the procedure, or they won't even take the case, or they will just show it out. So all these things have to be done.
Because procedurally, you'd have to have somebody witnessing the sample collection, how you handle the sample, who touched the sample. Because let's be honest, and I think where the cynicism comes in, Belize, there are very few top athletes. So if they test positive, they feel
Oh, yeah.
that they have
yeah.
been.
Yeah, like somebody, targeted them or,
yes.
or want to spite them. But and I said, like I said, when it comes to also there's a chaperone involved. Only the athlete would handle the sample during the process. Normally there's a chaperone that will, if are the same sex, if you're a male, a chaperone or the drug control officer will accompany you to the bathroom when you give the sample to see that the sample is coming from you. Because in the past, there have been people faking and taking samples in there. But some of the, I just want to touch some of the anti-doping rule violation, like doping would be called just the present of the doping samples in your urine after it was analyzed. So presence is one of the anti-doping rule violation. You have the use, you are using it. Once you're using it, you catch use or an attempt to use is even a violation. You have refusing. If an athlete is notified at an event or we come to your house for, because when it comes to the outer competition test, you can be tested anytime, anywhere. So I could show up to your house at any hours and serve you, and you have to comply, because failure to do that is an anti-doping rule violation. So with outer competition, it's a little different. It could be any time, and if you look at some water video, you will surprise out 2 o'clock at night or any hours you could. Yeah. So it's very.
Do we do that in Belize?
Yes. We do out of competition, but we don't go to 2 o'clock. We try to work with the athletes. Refusing, like I said, refusing to give a sample is a violation. Failure, tampering, if you try to tamper. Possession, if people who follow the Tour de France would hear that during that period of time they would raid some team camps, and once they find any performance in that era, everybody within that era, just like with drugs, you can be charged, and it's a violation. Tampering, trafficking, if you're selling these things. You have administration, like the doctors. If you as a coach is giving the athletes these substances, you can also be found.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, you still as an athlete need to be responsible.
Yeah.
Well, I think that all that you're saying, a lot of people watching are probably wondering, how many cases or how frequent then do you come across a case where somebody tests positive or somebody does, some sort of violation of one of those rules, whether it's administering or something. Is it something that the organization does come across frequently?
Well, out of the 37 tests that we did last year, there was 2 positive that was found. And like I said, you really as an organization, you're not looking for positive, so you try to work with the federation and association to keep the sports that they love clean. And any organization would want to encourage that, to keep the sport that they love clean. So we try to work with all the federation, and that's why right now for the rest of the year we will continue be working with them. We're offering to workshop, presentation.
So you try to educate all the different.
Yes. So at the end of the day, because there are times when if an athlete for a particular sport is being sanctioned, even the federation or the association can be sanctioned by WADA or by the NOC if you are not doing your part. Yeah. Because you also have to do your part as a federation or association to educate your athlete and to give them, because if I didn't tell you, Marlene, that if you take this blah 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 and you take it, then I could say, well, maybe you were not. And
some of the other sports may have fallen under the radar over time. When you talk about canoeing, for example, or cricket, I don't know if they've been thinking about whether or not NATO is paying attention to them. But going back to where we started, so the organization is now in compliance and back in good graces with the regional RADO and the World Organization, WADA. You're back in good standing. Yes, because you've trained your personnel. Your drug control officers. Yeah. You also do training with the
Therapeutic Use Exemption Committee, because again, we couldn't just, we know we had to have this committee in place, but the norm in the past would have been, you no. WADA said no. If you want that committee, these people have to be trained and accredited first. So WADA, like I said, we work with them. They send international trainers to come, and now we have trained therapeutic use exemption personnel that about 15. So we could always have. Likewise, we did the results management training for the panel, because we also have to do that, because those are the people that will actually sit at the case once there's a positive.
They're the judges.
They are the judges that will decide what happened, and what happened whenever, you know how it goes when these things are delegated abroad, it takes far longer for us to get results and all that. So once you have those things in house,
So you train some attorneys to be
yes,
able
yes,
to
attorneys.
be,
Yeah, we had the training for the attorneys. That was the last training.
So we have a few big sporting events taking place. Basketball is ongoing. The canoe race is coming up. Of course, the cross country is coming up. Is this perhaps a preemptive move for athletes to know and fans to know?
Exactly. We want to let them be aware that, you know, we will be doing far more anti-doping tests, and it might be in your sport. Maybe in the past you were not aware there, but then we want to let them know that there's no prejudice. It's something that is very serious and acceptable worldwide, as long as you participate. It is part of the norm. I was tested twice during my career as playing. I was pulled off. Even when I wasn't even playing, I was on the bench and I was pulled off. But so it's part of the norm, you know, and you need to expect it.
So we can expect that we will hear that NADO is conducting tests, and you know, I hope that our athletes are being above board in their practices, and if not, then we'll hear from you.
Yeah, because I really want to encourage the athlete not to go that way, because your career can be over overnight. Basically, you look not to discriminate or talk bad about the whole thing with our boxer, the big baby. You know, it's been, you could see he's going through a lot now to probably rebuild. So just Marion Jones, you know, you want to reach to the top, but at what cost? And your entire career, your entire, you know, and not just your career, your health could be in serious danger down the road. So it doesn't worth it to dope and try to be clean. And you know, I think people will respect you far more to know that.
And I like what you said. It's about maintaining the integrity of the sport, and for those who work hard without any kind of additional enhancement. Charlie, thank you for coming in and letting us know that NADO has been working behind the scenes to get themselves back in tune with the responsibilities, and we appreciate the educational session we just had.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, it's time to get us into the mood for Valentine's Day, and we have Ras Indio in house to tell us about his latest video. So please stay tuned.
And we are back. Joining us for our third conversation. You know him, you love his music. We've got Ras Indio in the house talking to us all about his newest track. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Truly a pleasure as always. Like Channel 5, open your eyes, I want to be home. So whenever I have something new, which today we'll be showing it to the people even before it's uploaded to YouTube.
Oh, we like that.
Because this is the date, February 14th, that we plan to release the official video with Reggaeville. You know, everything takes a process when dealing with certain international people. So we picked this day because, again, it's a song of love and it's a time of love, which we should love all the time. But this is the time when people tend to want to express it most. So I decided to release this. Not me, but we and the team decided to release this song now. This is not the song I really wanted to start the year off with. 2020 is supposed to be a year of clear vision, and I have so many songs waiting to be released. They're like, pick me, pick me, pick me. Literally, right? But
Oh, I just love artist mind. I can really imagine that. But I think you may not have wanted to release it, but starting off with something that says, I'm a man of my words,
Truth.
That's a pretty strong start.
Yes, and like you said, I have to mean that. It's not something I can just fake and say, I'm a man of my words, and then go do the other thing. It's a song expressing the way a man would feel after, let's say, hurting his loved one. Maybe a couple months down the road, you decide that you really love this person. And I am like expressing myself. You see, we as artists, we put ourselves in the shoes of human beings living all types of lives. Well, I do, And like, this album was released 2014. It's on the One of a Kind album. I believe I was in here with that album. And it has nothing but love songs. So they said, what happened to India? Now, which girl got India? That's what they made it. Which girl India? That's people literally made a message me. Which girl got India?
So which one was it?
It's not any special woman. Like in my life, yes, I've, transcended and moved around and yes, met different people, but I use different experiences. And I see other people going through their own experiences, and then I use everything in a song. When you sit down to write a song, all kind of things come from everywhere.
But Indio, I think we all love music.
Yes,
but love songs or heartbreak songs or the songs that encapsulate how we feel or what we want to say but can't find the right words to say, those are the ones that we really gravitate towards.
Emotions.
And so this is a love song, and what I'm hearing from you is more than a love song, it's an apology song. It's like, I learned I love you a bit too late.
Exactly. And the album One of a Kind had many different types of love songs.
Yeah.
You had My Remedy, you had the song One of a Kind, you had Love You Always, which is a video we already released. But I didn't highlight that one much. For whatever reason, we had too many other songs in the band. Because at times, for us, now it's come to this, not just music all over the place. We kind of take time to get one nice song, take time to make it proper, and then release it. Watch it trickle in, watch what it does, then go at it again. You know what I mean?
But tell me about the inspiration for this one, Man of My Words.
It was basically, again, I was in a situation where I think this one was really personal, I'll be honest with you.
Let's hear it.
And so I was in a situation where, I was with someone at the time, and and I really wanted that person back, but couldn't get her, sorry, because she had already moved on. This is years ago. So, that song came out, and this song actually, believe it or not, was produced with Dynasty Productions around the time of the Jah Bless Us album. But I just decided to say, put it on this One of a Kind album,
Men don't talk about their emotions so much when it comes to breakups, especially, or not being able to get the person they love back. How personal are the lyrics in this song for you? Because it could be fueled by an emotion, but the lyrics.
I am a man of my words, and I won't hurt you, my girl. When I told you I love you, I meant it from the auto, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, see, I am it's like, I'm almost to cry to sing this
I was
song.
about to ask you if it takes you back whenever you do sing the song.
Yeah,
And you
no.
mean she
Take you to
didn't
that
come
place.
back when you serenaded her
Imagine
like that?
that, not true. Nah,
That means you did something pretty bad.
well, actually, I don't think she have probably that person wherever she is in the world. Maybe I haven't even heard this song right now. You know, so when she does hear it, she'll probably say, I wonder if that's me to sing about. But yeah, but no, you know, in all honesty, I like to dedicate it now to the women that are now around me, you know,
Yeah.
even like my mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, just people who this song could mean something to them.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to uplift us and bring us together and make everyone feel good. When, I mean, couples, you know what I mean? You're out there, think of Ras India song and remember that you don't want to hurt your woman. You know what I mean? Just like you think about a Tyrus Riley song, who is coming real soon. Just like you think about Barry Salmon and all these great lovers rock artists. This was just me dabbling in that world. As you know, I do many different types of genres of music. I want to almost consider my music to be just listening music because you have to listen to a lot of the words that I'm always saying in my songs, you know? So
Yeah.
I might create a genre called listening music. Okay, you know, really dance. And you know, a lot of people tend to want to dance to music, which is great. I do too. But I'm the type to like to just like, wow, did you hear what he just said? You know? And because of that, that's what inspires me. And that's how I write. So a lot of the time you don't hear my songs in the clubs and playing all over the, you know? But find my music online. My music is everywhere for you to find on Spotify. This song right now is currently on Spotify. It's on Pandora, which is only in the US. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on Tidal. It's on iTunes. Name it. Name any one of the digital platforms that exist. We are there. This song is there. So
Nice.
yeah, man, run and get it.
You know, I love that you, like quite a few Belizean artists, have worked to ensure that they accessibility to your music. Because before you had to, and you know, everybody knows you. You walked around with your CDs. You were when it was Albert Street,
Yes.
walking downtown.
I
You
did
were
it.
there
Yes.
with your backpack.
Yeah.
Like so many great artists.
Yes, Mr. Peters
Just
and all did that.
maybe a decade ago used to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And now you just have to upload online.
Online and watch what happens. And to be honest, I've been happy to see what happens when we upload online. Imagine City History Day. That always make me laugh. That's why I always bring it and share it with you all because it's like, imagine I was that and that same pose. How I do that? Yeah, but
What we need is one picture of your dad now and see if it's emulating
Yeah.
his stage performance. For
I
people
have-
who don't
I
know,
have
your
some young
dad is
pictures
Brother
of
David.
yeah. Big up my father. He's probably in Dangriga right now, relaxing on his veranda, or he's probably doing a tour operating job. You know, he's always busy doing something. And big up my mom, Beulah Hushna, who I know is watching. She loves the show. She's always watching Open Your Eyes and all my
And
family.
she's especially watching because you're on.
Of course.
And you said that some of the lyrics in the song, it goes beyond romantic relationships. It could
Yeah.
just be man to woman respect.
Yeah, period. And all my songs carry that. Like Love You Mama. Remember I walked in
Yeah.
here with that. And there's, like I said, for 2020, we're going to have a lot of great tunes. You know, the music is making me feel more and more relaxed. I'm so relaxed with releasing music that it's just like, this is whatever. You know, it's automatic, I would
Yeah.
say. It's like boom, bam. And like you said, we upload it to iTunes and the trickling that has been going on has been great. When I say that, it's the trickling that comes in from iTunes and
Yeah.
Pandora and all them places.
Have you been
Royalties.
experiencing a growth in new audiences? Because that's what the beauty of online music does. It means that, you know, we know you've traveled
Yes.
in many different places, that maybe the African fans you develop then can now get access to your music.
I like how you picked at Africa, because that's one place I'm really aiming to go back to. More music. I remember now, due to how I was able to build myself up, I was able to go to Africa for restoration for myself. But now I want to go back to Uganda, there's Ghana, there's Kenya, even South Africa are places where reggae is huge. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not the party music, so I have to find other places to really allow my music to reach, because there's a lot of people that love listening music, you know, but tend to be that us here in Belize like the more hyper soca type, you know, punta-ish, I would say, music. The reggae is loved too, but for some reason it's not truly accepted by the reggae artists who dwell here. And then, you know, I mean, I grew up being told you have to try to be Jamaican, you understand? So we get past that already because they realize that reggae is not just Jamaica. Reggae is, I mean, look at Lucky Dube, he's South African reggae. There's I can't remember the name, but there's groups all over the Central America. There's Alika from Argentina, who's a Hispanic reggae Latina artist. There's Paradise Reggae Band right over the border in Guatemala. And our Mile 41 band, who exists in Belmopan, they recently just went to perform at the festival that band throws every year that has thousands of people. I don't know where they come from, because when you first get to Petén, it look like Roaring Creek, you know? It look like Camalote. It look like a smiley place. But when the field or the auditorium fills up, I was like, wow, you know, because I did it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see my brethren, who I grew up playing music with, Mile 41, do that. And, you know, it's like, so we have a struggle getting hired here in Belize. But right over the border, people see what we're doing, due to the new age of social media, because at one time we had to really struggle to get shows. But now social media, they see you, people hit me up, and I end up far, far across the world. You know what I mean? It's a trip.
Yeah.
And then those experiences, I also imagine, influence the music that you want, that you continue to write.
Of course,
you know?
because everywhere you go, you use those experiences to put into the music. You know, and it's I do again. Not every artist works the same, you know. That's what I realized. So I stopped bash artists. Remember I used to do that? I used to take a lick because I used to just want people to be how I am, and I realized not everybody can be how I am. Not everybody will consider their mom or their daughter when writing a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do, so that's why you get the type of songs that you get. You know, I hear me the cuss.
But you haven't also,
things,
I mean,
you know?
you've done love, you've done kind of appreciation and consciousness, but you've also done social
course.
commentary.
Of course. Let's not forget Dem a Fraud, which I wish we could re-highlight again right now.
Well, I was gonna ask, so because we have so much going on, do you kind of feel the need to bring some of these songs that have social commentary back?
Exactly, and that's what I felt. I mean, sometimes I wish the media would just say, oh, remember Racindio have a song Dem a Fraud? In fact, the other day was at a radio station and anybody tell me, but this One of a Kind album is old. And I'm like, no, it's not. Music don't get old. It doesn't. If you treat it the right way, music does not get old. If you sing the right things, music does not get old. You know what I mean? And I believe this album could live on forever. That's why we are just highlighting this song, Man of My Words. And I may highlight one or two more of the songs, but social commentary, Fire Blaze, that has now been legalized. I was singing Fire Blaze 2011 when marijuana was the worst thing around Belize, right? And I was fighting for that struggle. And now it's been legalized, almost worldwide. And we gave it 10 grand. So, you know, and then I legalized it after that. And then I have more I'm going to tell you, I have a song with my brother Nkrumah. Remember us?
Yeah.
Which song me and he sing?
No, I can't remember names of songs.
Me and Ras Nkrumah. No, I can't remember which song me and Nkrumah sing. Plant the Can.
Oh, yes, and then you did the video for it as well. You guys came here to launch it.
Exactly. So yeah, Ras Nkrumah, big him up. He's in Dangraga right now. We have a song called Warning. And that song is waiting. Again, he's one of the ones that's saying, pick me, and I really want to pick him, but we chose to do this first.
Yeah.
But look out for that one.
Okay.
Coming real soon. Then we have Love the Life You Live. Actually, it's called Love Your Life. But the chorus says, live the life where you love and you will love the life that you live. Eh? Born negative, in everything you have to be positive. I don't know it, man. So I use it to sing.
Well, we won't sing it because you are the singer, right?
Yes, I am, but I want them to help me sing it, man. We have to all sing together. So these songs that I write is our songs.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes I feel funny when I'm at home and I'm like, that why it's so hard that everybody don't want to sing along with me. But I realize a lot of people are in seats and in positions that they can't really sing that loud the way I sing because they might lose their position.
Some of us are really bad at lyrics, right? I'll make up their own. I'm just saying.
Yes,
but let's come back to Man of My Word.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know why do you think someone is going to identify?
I was going to say identify, resonate with the song.
lyrics, the song, because a lot of us have done and been through the situation themselves. Yes, a lot of us.
Is this a call to action that we do better?
Man, start love your woman, respect your woman. I mean, I think I've been doing a lot better, you know. I've been doing great. And I've been a great father. It's not me to say that, but I can say that because everybody tells me I've been so. So yeah, I feel good at the position I am. Remember, I'm in my 40s now. And the way I used to jump up on stage, no, I probably can't even probably jump that high anymore. But yeah.
We love a good challenge, you know, in you. We'll probably make you jump.
I'm ready. We have a lot more places to attack.
Yeah.
And again, this song will be released with Reggaeville. So right now we're attacking Europe. Kind of get Clyde, the US, not necessarily because I love it there. And this video was shot in Santa Cruz, California, on the coast, a place where I've been a few times. Big up Jacob Guth. He also got involved with the drone shooting. He's my very good friend who's been to Belize, but I visit him a lot. Big up Pantiman, Mark Mazaya, he's part of the whole crew. You know, it's people that come to Belize and enjoy their time here sometimes on their vacation. And then I get to do the same when I go that side.
Oh, nice.
You know, but I fell in love with that place. And I said, I have to put it in a video. So far, Santa Cruz has made it into 2 videos. Love You Always and this one, Man of My Words. Is that the introduction?
That's right.
Let's get them.
Have I ever told you? Have I ever told you? Have I ever told you, my girl, that I am a man of my words, and I'll never lie. No, I'll never lie. 'Cause I'm a man of my words, yeah. I won't hurt you, my girl, yeah. When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart. 'Cause you're my queen and my world, yeah. I don't wanna see you hurt, eh? Royal Empress of the earth, eh? Oh, I'll do anything to see that smile on your face. Oh, I'll do anything to see that joy on your face. I don't ever wanna see you cry. Baby girl, wipe the tear from your eye. When I told you I love you, I meant it, and that's no lie. Hey, 'cause I'm a man of my words, eh? I won't hurt you, my girl, eh? When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart. You're my queen and my world, eh? I don't want to see you hurt, eh? Royal Empress of the earth. No matter what they do or say, they can't take me away from loving you, yeah. And you love me just the same. So how can I hurt you, baby? They say love will drive you crazy, but love is all we have. So baby, come save me. I am a man of my words, and I won't hurt you, my girl. When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart, oh yeah. See, I am a man of my words, and I don't wanna see you hurt, eh? Royal Empress of the earth, eh? You're my queen and you're my world. Yeah,
There you had it.
Yes, man of my words.
As you said, it was shot in Santa Cruz. Some of it, for a second there, I thought were bits of Belize, but
Really?
you said it's all in Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, the mountains, you say look like the sleeping giant, but that's a view that we enjoy all the time from Santa Cruz. It's actually an area called Davenport, California. It's like you come from LA, you can take the one freeway and end up right there. There's one freeway that drives along the whole coast, and you can stop in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. And I think California is one of the most beautiful places there is, states in the U.S.
Second to
Belize.
Okay, just making sure,
You
right?
say.
Right.
Put me up on spot, so.
As you said, this video goes up on Reggaeville
Yes,
on
February 14th.
Yep.
Actually, they might do it a day early, the 13th, but let's just look at the 14th. It'll be released worldwide, and I want everybody to go out there and share it, watch it. Please enjoy the video.
Well, thank you for coming in and showcasing it here on Open Your Eyes First,
Thank you
and
for
also
having-
sharing a love song that we can listen to as Valentine's Day approaches.
Yes, man, I appreciate
Thank you, Indu. And of
welcome.
course, anybody who wants to get in touch with you, you're all over social media.
everywhere. Twitter,
and-
Instagram, Facebook, name it. I'm there.
all right, and all his music you can get on the streaming services.
Yes.
Um,
Or download it. Don't be afraid to download. A lot of people do that. I can't go download, so I only could listen to it, so then go to Spotify. But yeah, again, we're still making CDs, and they're in the Teddy's shop in King Street. We're still making CDs, but usually those are giveaways. Okay? And I know we're out of time. so
wow, how things
bless
have
up.
changed.
Yeah,
All right.
imagine.
Okay,
Yeah, but-
because it's more expensive now to find a CD player, but that's a whole other conversation. We gotta go.
Oh,
Thank you so
man.
much for coming in.
Bless the love.
We're gonna go ahead and take that final break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
The Belize Bank introduces
And we're back. Great show today.
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of great conversations. Of course, first of all, we do want to thank the president of the NTUCB for coming and discussing all of the issues of national importance, which the National Trade Union Congress has been tackling a lot, of course, which all of us, have been talking about in recent times during the current events.
Yeah.
So that was certainly a really enlightening and encouraging conversation, I would say, given that they're really pushing for the implementation of the UNCAC.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also want to thank Charlie Slusher for coming in this morning. For people who follow sports internationally, especially, they know about the importance of testing and the fall from grace that an athlete endures if they have been found positive in one of these tests. We know that our local organization, NATO, which Charlie represents, had its own issues a few years ago. We've had one or two athletes that have tested positive, and they've come under question. And so to hear that they are formalizing and training and reinforcing what they do have in place to kind of make the organization more credible, and also let athletes know ahead of time just what they're allowed to have, not allowed to have, because we were joking, even things like Sudafed, which if you got bad allergies or sinuses, you take it all the time. So I think, imagine an athlete not knowing that in Belize, because we didn't really have a culture of testing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and things like that have made the news in other countries. I know, like, most famously, there was a case of someone who's, and it's happened more than once actually, that people have gotten medals, Olympic medals, prizes, all kinds of trophies taken away. Because they've taken something over the counter, or for example, maybe they had a cold, or they had pain somewhere, and somebody said, well, take this will help you, not knowing, of course, that it had something that was banned, because a banned substance isn't necessarily just a steroid. It's something that can enhance your performance in all kinds of different ways. And those things, there's a huge range of substances, and it's updated at least once a year. So it's definitely encouraging that we have our own local organization keeping up with what is required internationally, and that we're holding our athletes to what is the international standard, and that we're ensuring it's not just about the standard, it's also about ensuring the health of the athlete themselves and the integrity of the sport.
Yeah, I love the integrity of the sport part, and I also think, just to add on to that when we continue to brag, as we love to do, that we have natural talent in Belize, we mean it, that it is natural talent.
For sure.
There's some big events coming up. I'm sure NATO is doing this as a part of sensitizing the public and athletes that they will be present in these upcoming games. And then we want to thank Ras Indio. He is a well-known face here on Open Your Eyes, always creating new content, always talking about his experience in producing music. He just launched a brand new video, Man of My Words. Right? You're going to sing along to that one, Gavin?
Oh yeah, for sure, since Valentine's Day is coming up. If I find a Valentine by then.
Ooh, I think that was a call out. You're making us get some ideas for the Valentine's show now.
Yeah.
Maybe we do a Date Your Gavin show.
All right.
Look at the celebration in our control room.
I know, right? I know, all right, so good. We got a green light.
Yeah, he's going to kill me after the show, don't worry. But the day's coming up. We're going to get a bit giddy before then. We're going to have some more love conversations before then. And don't forget, as is our practice here at Open Your Eyes, we have our Valentine's special coming up on Friday. It's one of my favorite shows. I think that and Mother's Day, they're pretty close for the year. So we're looking forward to that on Friday. You don't want to miss it. Sure. But we got to wrap it up. Remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. Drop me a line at Marlene_OYE at channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BC.
And on Instagram at OYE Belize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
My girl, yeah. When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart. 'Cause you're my queen and my world, yeah. I don't wanna see you hurt, eh? Royal Empress of the earth, eh? Oh, I'll do anything to see that smile on your face. Oh, I'll do anything to see that joy on your face. I don't ever wanna see you cry. Baby girl, wipe the tear from your eye. When I told you I love you, I meant it, and that's no lie. Hey, 'cause I'm a man of my words, eh? I won't hurt you, my girl, eh? When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart. You're my queen and my world, eh? I don't want to see you hurt, eh? Royal Empress of the earth. No matter what they do or say, take me away from loving you, yeah. And you love me just the same. So how can I hurt you, baby? They say love will drive you crazy, but love is all we have. So baby, come save me. I am a man of my words, and I won't hurt you, my girl. When I told you I love you, I meant it from the heart, oh yeah. See, I am a man of my words, and I don't wanna see you hurt, Royal Empress of...
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.